Welcome. Thank you for joining our webinar on Accreditation. It should take about 40 to 45 minutes, leaving plenty of time for questions throughout the presentation. If you do have questions, go ahead and put them in the Q&A session, and we will take them throughout the duration of the presentation. Today, we are going to talk about the required accreditation reports for paramedic programs, most notably the self-study report and the annual report. We're going to focus on the importance of storage and organization of the documents needed for those reports and adhering to the specific formatting requirements when submitting those. We're going to focus mainly how Accreditation helps you, the program directors, to do those activities. A little bit about me. I think Rio covered most of it. I am married with 4 grown children, 3 of which are in college. 1 is finishing high school. I completed my bachelor's degree at Siena Heights University and went on to finish my Master of Arts degree in higher education leadership. I am a paramedic by trade. The career ladder in EMS is typically a short and straight one, so I feel very privileged to have experienced some unique career opportunities during my career. I started out as a field paramedic. I was a critical care paramedic for Muskegon County, Michigan. I am a state licensed paramedic and paramedic instructor coordinator for the state of Michigan. I was a Michigan Department of Health and Human Services contract employee working on Stroke Systems of Care project that was funded by the CDC. I learned a great deal during my time in that role. And then I found myself in the position of EMS Program Director, which is where my passion for this particular project stems from. Platinum Educational Group was our vendor for that EMS program. We had them for testing and for skills tracking. They were a huge asset to our education program. And I started working with them on this project originally as a contract employee and then joined them full-time in 2019. Typically, when I do a presentation, I like to share a fun fact about me just to give you an insight. And my husband recommended that I share my last EMS call, which is a doozy. So at the time, I had worked in operations and I was leaving to work at MDHHS. My last day in the office was Friday, but my closest friend and paramedic asked me to pick up one last shift with her on Saturday night. And I don't know if any of you know about Muskegon County, Michigan, but we're pretty active in EMS. So Saturday night was a busy one. We took probably 12 or 13 calls in a 12-hour period. We're cleaning our truck. We're excited to go home. We're tired and beat. And we got dispatched to a call of a very pregnant female, unresponsive. They conceived the baby's head. And we arrive on scene, and that is indeed what we had before us. I was in the tiniest of bathrooms, my back against a wall, an unresponsive woman in front of me with a baby crowning, a toilet to my left, and a tub to my right. There's very little room to move. So my partner lays out the materials in the bathroom sink on a sterile cloth. There's a firefighter in the bathtub, and I'm shouting out equipment like a surgeon on Grey's Anatomy, who's being handed to the firefighter who hands it to me. We delivered a beautiful 7-pound baby, transported mom and baby to the hospital. Mom left against medical advice when she woke up. She was a known heroin user, and baby was unfortunately addicted to narcotics, but otherwise perfectly healthy and beautiful. Fast forward, she didn't have any family in the hospital, so all of us that helped deliver her, we visited her in the hospital. We brought her clothes and stuffed animals. And for that, the hospital offered all of us a Friends of Nursing award, which I thought was very sweet, although unnecessary, but very sweet of them. And then fast forward one more year, I was invited to that little girl's adoption. And the woman who adopted her had also adopted 2 of her brothers that were born sometime before her. So she actually is now growing up with her siblings. So I couldn't have scripted my very last field call any better. So it was awesome. And I'm glad to share that with you guys. So today we will be talking a lot about accreditation. So it's important for you to know that Platinum Educational Group is not affiliated with or endorsed by any accrediting committees or organizations. Any references to COA or KHAP are in their publications. is the copyrighted property of those organizations. So a little bit about accreditation. So let me see. I just realized that my slides aren't moving here. Can you guys see the, is it still on the, Rio, is it still on the introductory slide?
It's still on, yeah, it is.
So let's see if it will show. Well, yes, I'm moving on this one. Okay. Sorry about that. I didn't realize it wasn't moving. So there's me. Hi, everyone. All right. So a little bit about accreditation. The program sponsor is already accredited by an agency recognized by the U.S. Department of Education. KHEP is our programmatic or specialized post-secondary accrediting agency recognized by the Council of Higher Education Accreditation, or as we know it to be CHIA, specifically talking about paramedic program accreditation. They work cohesively with the COA, or we call them COAMs, to carry out accreditation activities. And the COA offers resources and ensures compliance with the KHEP accreditation standards, and they are the ones that recommend the program for KHEP accreditation. And then in 2013, NAEMSE eligibility is based on graduation from a nationally accredited EMS program as well. And in addition to this, many states have their own requirements. Excuse me. So the importance of achieving and maintaining accreditation cannot be overstated. We know that if a student graduates from an unaccredited program, the student might not be eligible for certification or licensure. We know, and we certainly don't want that to happen. So here I have a diagram from coaemsp.org. This talks about the letter of review process and the KHEP accreditation process. And we'll just review this briefly. So we start with the application to achieve a letter of review status. Once that application is received, the program director is required to attend a KHEP accreditation workshop. Now that used to be a voluntary option, but now it is a requirement. And I do recommend going to as many as you can. Now, as a program director, this was an extremely useful platform to interact with the COA and ask questions of your other program directors in network. Then the program will submit a letter of review self-study report. This is a very detailed report of your programmatic functions and adherence to KHEP standards. Then the COA will conduct a preliminary site visit. If everything looks good at that point, you'll get your letter of review status, and then you're allowed to enroll that first paramedic cohort. And then you're going to merge into the regular accreditation activities. Once that first cohort graduates, you're going to complete an ISSR, or an initial self-study report. Then COA is going to conduct a program site visit. They will put together a findings letter of anything that they need clarification on or that needs to be addressed, and then give you time to respond to that findings letter. Then the board will meet, they will review everything, and if everything looks good, then you'll be recommended for KHEP accreditation. And KHEP is the one that makes that final accreditation determination. Once accredited, your self-study report now turns into a continuing self-study report at each renewal, and you will be required to do annual progress reports. So a lot of effort goes into maintaining a high quality accredited program. Too many program directors, my own previous experience as a program director included, are filling open positions without a mentor in place to offer guidance and direction. The last statistics that I knew of at a workshop that I was at in 2019, the turnover rate was averaging over 20% annually. So it's quite a bit. So our goal with Accreditation was to offer support for those EMS program directors to help them do all the activities that accreditation requires, of a high quality program requires. So just looking at this list of features, I invite you to envision how many hours of work this could save you with this tool. How many hours of work do you see here in all these activities? Accreditation helps complete the self-study report, the data required for your annual report, and it helps you prepare for your program site visit. So with the self-study report, it will automatically import your existing Platinum data. That would include your clinical affiliate data, your field internship affiliate data, the preceptor list, including the dates that they're trained, a copy of your summary tracking reports, and your most up-to-date student minimums. The more data that you have in Platinum, the more is imported into the reports. However, it's designed for new customers to still use Accreditation and take advantage of that. One of the really nice features about Accreditation is that it will always keep track of what you have left to do. So it helps you manage and stay organized. For the annual report, it offers a data export, and that data export is going to include your retention and attrition outcomes, graduate surveys, employer surveys, and compiling of that data. And then it will also offer positive job placement outcomes. Once you receive the annual report template from the COE, you can transfer this information into that template. And lastly, we have an option to organize and prepare documents for your site visit. This puts everything in the required format and gets you prepared for the site visit, and you just simply download all the files once the site visit is scheduled. All right, so I'm going to offer you a demonstration of how this works. We'll start with the self-study since that's the largest of the three, and then we'll talk about the annual report data export and then organize those site visit documents. Is everyone able to see my screen? I'm on the platinummed.com.
Yep, you're good.
Perfect. All right, so we'll start with the self-study report. Here on the dashboard, for those that are familiar with Platinum products, there is a new space to add a program director here. Once a program director has been added into the system, you'll see a program director toggle. This is nice because you can hide this in the background when you're not working on it, and then activate it when you are. You'll see two boxes. One is add accreditation reports, and one is to manage upcoming surveys. And we'll start with the accreditation reports here. Now we have two in here that I created for the purposes of this demonstration, but to create a new report, we will simply add accreditation report here. We have our disclaimer that we're not endorsed by any accrediting organization. Your school will present by default. If you oversee more than one school, then you can use the drop down and choose another school. Here you will select the report that you want to work on. And today we're going to work on the self-study report. And this lets us know that the template we are using was updated in February of 2022. I'll just, after you select self-study report, you can choose the phase of the self-study that you are in, whether that be letter of review, initial, or continuing. Now you do have the option of selecting a cohort. The self-study report in and of itself isn't requesting individual cohort information like the annual report is, but the purpose of selecting a cohort here is to provide a link to your most up-to-date information. So we want to choose a cohort that's using our most up-to-date minimum competencies. Our most up-to-date clinical affiliates, and all of that information will be pulled in from that time frame of that cohort. If you know when it's due, you can certainly select a due date. That's optional. And then any notes here for your use. Now we've decided what we're going to work on here. If you need to edit that, you can edit that information. And now we're ready to manage files. When we select manage files, it's going to bring us into the Accreditation report management tool. Everything in here is organized by standard to keep it very simple and organized. And there's three ways that we can get started. We can start clean and manually import files. We can import an existing self-study report, or we can generate a base report using the information in Platinum Planner. This is my favorite, and I'll start with this one and show you how this works. So what it's doing, it's looking into my Platinum Planner account, and it's looking at that specific cohort that I selected, and it's going to pull in data from that time frame. So now I can see that it's prompting me to upload documents within each of these standards. Under standard 1, it's asking for a valid accreditation and a state approval. Now I may need additional information later, but if I just want to work on the documents I know that I need it right now, we have an option up here that says show only relevant. And we can just work on those documents at this point. To upload documents, you'll click on the heading, and then you can import the document like so. Or this is a fan favorite. You can open the documents file and then drag and drop it into Accreditation. Once you upload the document, you'll get a green check mark and a time date stamp. And you'll just work through this and upload the requested documents within each standard. Screenshot of our minimum goal. Down here, you can see the clinical affiliates that it's pulled in. I have 2 clinical affiliates, so it's asking me to upload my clinical contract or agreement, like so. And you'll just work on these documents like this. We have 1 field internship. Now, once we've uploaded these documents and we want to add more information into that self-study report, we can go to our main report and download our self-study report here. Just waiting for my Excel document to open. I do have a question. They have an EMS testing account. Do they have access to this, or do they need to be using Planner? This is purchased separately, and anyone with an EMS testing or Planner account can use this. It pulls more data in from Planner than it does EMS testing, but it will pull data from both. All right, so here's our self-study report that we're working on. The version is 2022. On our title page, it's pulled in our school information. And under program info, it will pull anything that automatically generated from your affiliates tab here. And then under our affiliates tab, we can see we have 2 clinical sites, and those clinical sites are here. And then we have 1 capstone site down below, and that is listed here. The averages come from your students' documentation, and your preceptor list pulls from Platinum Planner, including the date that they were trained. Now let's manually update some information in the self-study report and show you what happens. So I like to use the standard 2 goals. And right now, if we go back to our standard 2 goals, we see that we only needed an org chart and a screenshot of our minimum goal so far. But if we update some information in here, let's put in our last 3 advisory committee meetings. And we'll just do 1 a year. And then we save that information. Now what we want to do is bring that updated document into Accreditation. It's going to read the new document and look for any updated information. Now I see that I have 3 advisory committee meetings, and I'm being prompted to upload the minutes for each of those meetings. I'll simply upload those minutes. And you'll keep working on this at your pace in this manner. Whenever you have time to work on it, you can update the self-study, put it back in here, and it will let you know what you have left to work on. Once we've uploaded all of these documents and we feel that it's ready for submission to the COE, you can build report for submission at the top. It's going to compile everything into a zip file for you. It's going to title that self-study report in the required COE format. Open this up, ensure that it's accurate, make sure everything is completed in its entirety. And then you have one subfolder of documentation. Again, all of your documents that you uploaded have been reverted to the required COE format for you. So you don't have to change any of that. If everything looks good, then this is ready for you to submit to the COE MSP. There's a couple other features in here I'd like to talk about. We have offered some additional file storage at the bottom for you. This is not included in your report for submission to the COE. This is simply for you. You can store your executive analysis here, any supporting data that you feel is relevant to this self-study. You can show deleted. So if you deleted any files, you can always revert back to them. And we also have an option to show all the history. So you can always revert back to any of your files. So if you overwrote a document that you've been putting effort into for a year, you can always get that back. Let's say we started this before our cohort that we selected did capstone. You can start this anytime you want, and then you can always reapply the cohort data or affiliate data, and it will update accordingly. And lastly, you can download all the files, which will download the self-study, all of your attachments, and your files at the bottom that you had stored onto your network for you. So that's the first way to generate a self-study. That's generating the report using your Platinum data. There's two other ways that you can get started using this for the self-study report. We have what's called a blank slate. This brings you into the Accreditation tool, and you can simply start uploading documents and working on it, starting from scratch. I'm going to upload some documents in here. What's nice about this is it also works in reverse. So when I put my self-study report in here, it lets me know what I have left to do. Now, if you're starting from scratch and you're uploading documents, oops, unload that template. Now you can start working on the self-study report and manually updating information without pulling Platinum information in, if that's your preferred choice. And some new customers, this is the way that they get started. And then you can come in here and start manually updating. I'm not going to actually update anything in there. Let's just use that last one. Now you can see that this has turned yellow, and I wanted to show you that I've uploaded a document, but I still need to update my Excel document. So that way it lets you know what you have left to do in your self-study report and or what you have left to do in uploading documents. And then our last example of the self-study is generating it from an existing CSSR or SSR. So you can, if you've already started one, you can go ahead and import it in here, just like we did before. You've already been working on this one. It will look at it, it will read it, and it will tell you what you need to work on. So there's 3 ways to get started with the self-study. And I'll go ahead and open it up for questions if anybody does have any questions. All right. Looks like those are already answered. Okay. The cost is $475 annual subscription. Okay, let's go to our annual report. So I have So for the annual report, I have our staging account that we're going to use for you. Again, we'll go back to the Manage Accreditations, and you'll simply select Add Accreditation Report. Here you'll select your report that you want to work on, and this time we're going to work on our annual report. The report year will automatically default to 2 years retrospective. So for 2022, we're going to have submitted our 2020 data. The cost was $475 per year. You can renew that anytime. So it defaults to a reporting year of 2020. You can change this if you want some data from another year. If you want to, you can always update that. You can put your due date in here and then any notes that you want to keep track of. Now, again, we're going to just select Manage Files. And this one's pretty simple. We can generate a base report here, or we can generate a report from here. Either one will work. And what this is going to do, it's going to read the Platinum accounts and it's going to look for graduate data from the year of 2020. And you can download that data export here. Now we do have lots of file storage if you want to keep your completed annual report in here and any documents that might be relevant to this annual report. In the data export, give this a second.
We have 2 questions, Sherry, while that opens. Joseph asks if it helps with the RAM.
Oh, great question. You beat me to it. So on the horizon, we are working on the resource assessment surveys as we speak, and we are hoping that that will be a live feature before the end of this year.
And the other question is from Laura. I have worked through this. They specifically stated not to use a cloud-based service / online because of a loss of data and functions. This is excluded now from that.
When you say they, do you mean the COA EMSP?
Yes.
I'm not familiar with what they recommend, but this is very safe. We have extensive data safety features in place. There's no way you can lose your data here. Did I get everyone?
Yep, I believe so.
Perfect. Okay. All right. So in the data export, let me show you around a little bit. The first page is retention and attrition. Then we have postgraduate survey data, and then some useful information, general information that you might may or may not need. In the first page for retention and attrition. So this is automatically calculated based on 2 features within your Platinum account. And most of you probably are already aware of the change in attrition calculations, and we'll show you that updated policy real quick, just to make you aware of it. So before, each program could use their college's policies on retention and attrition calculations. But as of this year with the 2020 annual report, COA wants everybody on the same page, and they've asked you to use 10% of your program's advertised total clock hours. So what that means is if your program, for example, is 1,200 hours in duration, whatever day the 120 hours hits on, any student that drops after that point then starts counting towards your attrition outcomes. So what we did some updates in the system to accommodate for that. And within each cohort, you will now see an attrition applies after date, and you can go ahead and put whatever date that your attrition starts calculating for that particular cohort in that box there. Now, if you don't have a date in there, when you try to generate an annual report, you'll get an error and it will prompt you to enter that date so it can calculate the retention and attrition for you. Then once you drop students throughout the duration of the course, it will ask for a reason, the exact date that you want them dropped. So you can always do this retrospective, and then you can leave any comments here. It's going to keep track of all of that information. And then when you pull your annual report, all of your totals per cohort will list here with your averages at the end. So you can simply transfer this data into the annual report template. So pretty simple for the attrition and retention calculations, and hopefully a huge time saver for you, the program director. Our next page is the postgraduate surveys. So this is designed to automatically generate the graduate and employer surveys for you. Within the student's account information, they'll put their email address and an alternate email address if for non-school email, and then their employer information. The program will automatically prompt students 2 weeks before the course end date to update that information, so you have the most up-to-date information before they walk out that door. When you give a final exam in EMS testing, that will also trigger an update or a prompt for them to update their information. So we know we're getting close to the end of that program. 6 months after the cohort has graduated, the surveys are ready to go out, and the program director will get a notification right there on their dashboard that there are upcoming surveys that are getting ready to go. Now, I did say that these were set at 6 months after the course end date. However, you can change that. If you want them surveyed at 8 months, 10 months, 12 months, you get to choose that increment. Our default is simply 6 months. Everyone is opted in for the surveys unless you opt out, and not to worry, none of these will send without your permission. Once they are ready to send, you have a couple actions here. You can preview the survey. And we've kept it very simple. It's an introduction that we are, assessing the paramedic program and ask for some demographic info. The month since graduation will automatically populate for them because it knows their course end date. They can add how many attempts to pass their national examination. We just thought that might be useful for you at a glance. And then they can select if they are employed or continuing their education or in the military. And we'll ask for their feedback on their cognitive education, psychomotor, affective, and then any final thoughts. Now, if the student selects that they're employed as a paramedic, it will generate a new tab down here to update their employer contact info one more time. If they do put in employer information in here, and you have not yet received an employer survey for the student, it will automatically generate and send a new employer survey based on the information here. You have the option to update, and under update, maybe you have already surveyed this course and you don't want to survey them, you can disable that, or you can postpone it and select the date that you want them to be surveyed. And then of course, when you're ready, you can hit send, and the surveys will be sent out. Okay. Once the surveys are sent, the student will receive an email like this with our introduction here. However, you can customize your introduction for your school, especially if you offer incentive for them to do this, you can add that in there. They can click the link and it will take them directly to the survey. Once the surveys are sent, you'll see a surveys tab that is generated within the actual cohort, and all of the information that you receive from the surveys will be housed in that tab. You'll be able to see how many surveys were sent, how many were received. You can view those results. There'll be an option to resend if you didn't get a response, and it will provide you a summary of the responses down below. Then it will give you a nice little pie chart of all of your responses so you can see the data and you can develop your own analysis from it. You can view just the graduate responses or the employer, or you could do a cumulative of all of them. Once those surveys are submitted, if the student has selected that they are employed or continuing their education, that will automatically calculate your positive job placement outcome. I think that's all the features I wanted to touch on with the annual report. Are there any questions specific to the annual report or anything that we've discussed thus far?
It does look like we have a few questions in here. So Crystal asks, for former students who do not fill the graduate survey out, will it automatically resend? And that's the same question that they have for the employer survey as well.
Say that one more time.
For former students who do not fill the graduate survey out, will it automatically resend?
It won't automatically do it, but you can manually resend any that you want to try to get a response from.
Okay, Dawn asks, on the employer surveys, if there are more than one student employed with that agency, does it generate a survey for each student or just one survey?
Great question. We are working on implementing a second space for an employer because there are many that work for multiple agencies. So once that's generated, it will send out a survey if that information has been entered in Platinum.
Okay, Scott asks, when the surveys are sent but not responded to, oh, it's similar to the first question. Is there a reminder option to send automatically, or do you have to manually resend?
You would manually resend, yes.
And then it looks like in the chat, Laura commented on her question earlier. So the instructions for the SSR states cloud-based services, i.e. SharePoint, Google Docs, etc., must not be used when completing the self-study template. This type of software tends to remove the built-in formulas of Excel.
Okay, yeah, this won't remove any built-in formulas from their template. Yeah, I could see definitely some of those features disabling an Excel document, and you want to be very careful of that. This will not disable any of the built-in formulas from the COA MSP. All right, it looks like all of our questions. So I'll move on to our final feature that I wanted to talk to you about, which is the site visit preparation. So for the site visit, you will manage accreditations, add accreditation report, and you can simply select site visit. Now, this generated from the document that was published by the COA EMSP and KHEP in January 2021, requesting that documents for the site visit be organized in this fashion, in this order, and then any supporting documentation be titled in this manner. So what we did is we built an area for you to organize your site visit documents. And you simply, when you submit your self-study report, you can start building the documents that you need for your site visit right from the submission of that first self-study. So when you're ready, you can put your documents in here. And I think I have a demonstration here. We go do an agenda and put your participant list in here. If you had an advisory committee meeting since you submitted that self-study, you can go ahead and add your minutes in here for that. And you would just keep track of these documents while you're waiting for that site visit to be scheduled. We have additional file storage at the bottom for you again, if you want to store anything that's relevant for the site visit. And then once you're ready for the site visit, you can build the report for submission. And it will export all of that information and put it in the order and format that's requested for the site visit. The goal of this is to help you feel very prepared, organized, and ready for the site visit. You can export this prior to your site visit, have all these documents ready and waiting. You don't need to come in here into this report management tool for the site visit. It'll all be exported for you. You have the option of downloading all the files and saving them on your own computer. And then, of course, if anything got deleted, you can show deleted, and you can always revert back to the history. So pretty simple. If you are familiar with the self-study report, you will be very familiar with this, but even without that, I think this is a pretty easy tool to use for the site visit organization. So I don't think there's anything else I need to touch on that. We did mention earlier that we are currently working on the automated program resource surveys for students and for program personnel. That's going to compile the data for you to put into the RAM, the resource assessment matrix. Our goal for this is to have that feature live by the end of the year, and then it will automatically send annually at whatever date that you want that survey to be sent. The price for the Accreditation tool is $475 annually. I work in education as a trainer, but if you're interested in this product, contact our sales team at sales@platinummed.com. I think it's a really useful tool. It's been very successful so far, and hopefully an asset to our education programs. So are there any remaining questions that we didn't get to on anything that we discussed today? All right. Well, I just want to say that although I might be the face of this project, it is the effort of the entire Platinum team that has made this a successful platform for our customers. So I want to take this opportunity to send a huge shout out to the entire Platinum team for making this project a successful one. So thank you. And thank you all for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Sherry, for being here today and your presentation. Everyone, this will be recorded on the NAEMSE YouTube channel, and this link to obtain your CE was put in the chat. If you missed that, it will be in tomorrow's follow-up email. Thank you again, Sherry.
Thank you.
All right, bye, everyone.